This is Heirs to Heresy, Part 6. It's been about a month since we last played, so we did a recap off recording. So we are up to speed. But to segue us cleanly into the actual session, we had previously ended with Elyas returning to the Basilisk's Den and reconnecting with Torben and Estêvão. He seemed a little bit fraught, a little haunted, perhaps. I'll let Jazzy kind of talk about that if it comes up during the session. But effectively, as the night wounded down, our Templars were offered a place to sleep at the Basilisk's Den. Milan, the barkeep, true to his word, since you did him a favor, won't charge you for this. But it's not an inn. So effectively, you're on like the tap room floor. Maybe there's like some simple like accommodations to that effect in terms of like a blanket or something, but it's not the most comfortable. But it is, all things considered, once the tavern is closed, it relatively safe compared to your recent struggles. And you sleep. And though it's not a comfortable, entirely restful sleep, it is not one where you are constantly on edge and possibly sleeping in shifts. That said, I think before we get to the next day, I want to explore the dreams of Elyas Beaumonts. Elyas, what do you regularly dream of? What is the standard, the most mundane, commonplace dream?
Um, I think his standard dreams are very mundane but dreamlike, um, like vignettes of family life. You know, a dinner table, but the table is too long and there's too many dishes on it, and people dancing, but it's like all hazy and weird, and none of the faces really make sense. He's hunting in the woods, but his sisters are also there, which would have never happened in real life. Like all of these
Yeah.
feelings and things just kind of meshing together.
So it is largely the same for you this evening, at least at the start. Your dreams are of the Beaumont's house, but splendorous, even better than it was in its heyday. It is both the familiar environs of your family home, but it is also the Paris stronghold of the Templars in that strange dream logic architecture kind of way. Your father is there, but he's also Grandmaster Jacques de Molay. Your family, your siblings, guests, that sort of thing, and you are just in the most fitting of circumstances, well dressed, well tended for. You're like, everyone around you is like dressed like to the nines, and you're like in like full Templar regalia, but it's not like a social faux pas. It's just like everything, every affirmation about yourself is kind of in there, I would bet.
Yeah.
And at one point at the dream, you're like walking through the halls of your home, and there are hallways and doors that don't exist in reality that like open up to like rooms that you're like discovering for the first time or are overlapping from other memories. Like at one point, like there is just like the like what you assume to be Versailles is like kind of just like there's like these like just regal things. But there's like one space you end up walking into in particular. It's sort of the most memorable part of the dream, probably like close to you waking. It's the climax. Um, what is a specific memory or type of place where Elias feels like he might be kind of unworthy or just hasn't like earned the right, whether it's like I said, like a specific moment from his past or just like an environment type that presses in on him in such a way?
Yeah, I feel like it's gotta be that study again of his father, where I feel like we almost get like this, like he opens, like I feel like he's in the hallway and the door opens to that study, and he kind of like doesn't even go in. He freezes before he can even go there. And it's unassuming. It's, bookshelves, it's a desk, but there is such a weight and gravitas to it. There's like something on the table and just that overwhelming feeling of my father was going to tell me when I could step inside, and he never told me.
Um, Kevin, in the dream, the cup is here when Elyas enters. How is it positioned in such a way as to be like of prominence in his father's study?
I think in that dream architecture space, uh, there is actually, and if we're gonna go like full on dream architecture space, I think it's not until you scope out from the room itself that like Elias realizes, or we watching would realize that they are in the cup, that the entire room has a sort of curvature to it. Um, and as you zoom out uh, and kind of pass through the walls, uh, you would see that you are in fact in the Grail itself.
Oh, I love that. I think that at the very like bottommost part of the cup's basin is just like for the cup itself, like little more than half a droplet, but for you it's like a small little puddle, just a little gathering of water, just deep enough to like maybe get a little bit in your hands to sip from. You realize that like you're not particularly thirsty, but you could just drink from the puddle. You feel like you probably should. I mean, like, this is your house. This is, after all, like a place of importance, and you're a Beaumont and it's here. And perhaps this would gain your father's approval or some other similar line of thinking. There are the two parts of you, which is to drink from the puddle, even though you're not thirsty. But there's also something about the scene that reaffirms like your own self-doubt of not being like worthy of certain things. What is reaffirming that latter half?
Hmm. I think I think as I'm staring down in the puddle, maybe like my hands were already like cupping the water, it suddenly starts like rippling as if something is falling in it. And then we start to realize that ashes are raining down. My family burned, and I didn't stop it. I didn't save them at all.
The far off glow of a fire you cannot see is reflecting in the puddle of water. What do you do?
Hmm. I do I like realize in the dream that I'm in the Grail? That this is like Grail water, I guess.
In like the dream, yeah, you're not like lucid. It's not like in the sense of like you're aware you're in
Hmm.
a dream. It's like the sense of like, yes, I'm in the Grail, which is also my father's office, but of
Yeah, which
course,
makes sense.
which
Yeah.
makes sense, which is also like the chapel of the Paris stronghold with the reliquary.
Hmm. I think when the ashes start raining down, I think the first instinct, even in a dream, would be to get away,
Mm.
to just not look in the water, not see it, a door, a change of scenery, anything. Just make it stop.
You reject, and you turn to leave when someone bumps into and past you. In the dream, it's Alphonse Leloup, garbed the exact same way you saw him, which is to say as a commoner, but he's floating through your house as if he is just a member of whatever party here. And he chuckles and says something that you don't quite remember. It's hazy and far off. But if you're not going to drink from something, then he certainly will. And he puts his hands into the little puddle of the water and brings it to his lips, and just with that shit-eating grin just sips it back luxuriously, like he's earned it after a hard day's work. He even like gives like a little smack of his lips and a satisfied exhale. Ben, what happens to Alphonse that is punishment for drinking the water?
At first, I think you hear the rustle of feathers, and shadow spreads behind him like two great wings stretching out. But it's smoke, not shadow. And soon the fire, you can see the light glowing from within him as he becomes aware of what's happening. And he starts to scream as he burns from the inside out.
He burns from the inside out. As his mouth opens, it is both a scream and the distant rumbling crackle of like a fireplace, black smoke billowing out of him. You can see the glow of flame eating him from the inside. Eyes just burst with smoke as he screams, flesh melting, hair burning away. He grabs you by the shoulders, just screaming. And at this moment at the end of the dream, he is not only Alphonse Leloup, but he is Elyas Beaumont, dressed as you are dressed here in life, just screaming, clawing at his face, lips cracking. And then you wake up with a start and a bit of a sweat, perhaps. And at your side, where you slept in the tavern, is a little bag, and you can feel the shape of the cup beneath it, right where you left it. What do you do upon waking?
Yeah, I think we sort of get like a like the inhale as I kind of like immediately go for it, but also do almost like a weird body twist where I both want to check that it's still there and keep it close, but also don't want to touch it, leading me to, I think, sort of, crawl, be pushed against a wall as I just sort of slowly, he starts to realize where he is, that it was just a dream. He's waking up. I think he's just sort of looking around, like trying to get his bearings again.
And you are alone, aside from your sleeping companions, and nothing seems amiss. Let's fast forward a bit. Once a few more, maybe another hour or two passes, Milun is roused and is just kind of milling about the space to do some just basic cleanup. If Estêvão and Torben weren't already awake by now, Milun would probably just give you a harsh but still polite nudge to be like, all right, it's time for you to get up. He's not kicking you out yet, but he is willing to offer like just some extra breakfast. He won't charge you for it, but like he's just like just as like on top of last night, like he'll just give you a little bit of extra of whatever. He's just throwing some like something really basic together, just like grains in a pot, just kind of heating up some basic oats, and might have some like leftover something from last night on a pot that he'll just throw into the mix as well. Regardless, it is early in the morning. You've all roused. You can get some food in your bellies, and let's talk about what you would like to do with the day ahead. Perhaps we should have a little morning scene here with the lot of you gathered around after waking, perhaps over a bowl of something to fill your stomach, and just see where we're at. Who wants to start the scene?
Just out of character, we were like Alphonse was expecting us by noon
By noon to come to
today.
his his family's home by
Okay,
noon.
and I am assuming now is like very early morning. Like
Yeah, this is very early. Yeah. It's not. It's like I think like even when we like zoom in on the scene, as it were, it's like not even like in our real world terminology, it's not even like 10 a.m. yet. It's probably like earlier than that. Like it's after.
Yeah.
It's like it's approach. It's like mid autumn, and we're like just past like the sunrise starting to like get a little bit brighter, but yeah, it's still early.
Yeah, I think Elia is kind of just sitting there like still brooding and haunted, and like he's come to like to his senses, to his bearing, but he's still like a little shaken, I think, by everything. And he's probably also just looking at this food like, I know I should, but why? Just, like, just, it's a struggle.
If you're not going to eat that.
And he will push it towards Torben.
God needs
Without
you strong,
hesitation,
Elyas.
just
I think Estêvão is I mean, weapons need to be maintained, swords need to be polished, but the crossbow in particular uh is being taken apart, the smaller parts polished and reassembled. That's just part of Estevão's morning ritual. But yeah, he looks over at Elia and says, God needs you strong.
Yes, I won't be a burden. I've fasted for longer than this.
Very well.
I think Milan like is just in the background tidying up, but he comes by just with just like a pitcher of like water taken from the well just to top off your cups, and just offers a silent, just offers like a small comment of just saying like, yeah, when you were here last night, didn't quite take you folks for having so many weapons. He's eyeing Estevão with all of his, breaking his crossbow apart, and says, can't say that I've seen a lot of those among my usual clientele.
They're probably better at hiding them.
Doesn't offer more of a comment than that. Just goes back to tidying up in the background.
Alphonse will expect me, at least by noon. I shall honor that agreement, but I think he kind of eyes Torben. You do not have to go if you do not wish it.
Is that your way of saying you don't want me to go?
I don't want you hanged. And I'm afraid that your usual solution to most problems in regards to Alphonse might get you hanged.
Don't be ridiculous. I will die on my feet.
I hope so for you, but you won't if you, and I lean in closer so the barman doesn't hear it, but he probably does. If you plan to kill a noble.
I'll behave.
I'm going to head back to the church, see if I can find anything more about this possible allies.
Yes. Before we go to Alphonse, I would like to join you, if that's all right.
You won't see me try and stop you.
There's like a wry smile because he's like, oh, you two have so many times, but he doesn't say anything.
I want to get ready to transition scenes here, but I'm just trying to remember. It's yes, you do not. Yes, so you don't because you it's not a safe location. You guys don't get the any like stamina recovery from sleeping. I was double checking to see if anything generates back, but I don't think anything comes
Rude.
of the
I'm at
morning.
5.
Although I will say, as is the usual expectation, if you do not pray in the mornings when you awake, I do revoke a faith point, which I figure is usually not a concern with y'all, but I do want to check in with Torben about such things. Does he maintain a consistent prayer ritual in the mornings, or is there anything that stops him from doing so today?
If he's not alone, he'll pray.
And indeed, you're not alone, you're in company, so you pray. How does Torben feel when praying?
I think he's well practiced at saying the right words and thinking the wrong thoughts.
That is a very good way to put it. Torben, with Estêvão and Elyas going to, with them about to go to the church for a little bit and maybe devote some morning time towards Elyas's, or rather Estêvão following up on the network, are you accompanying them, or are you going to stick at the tavern? Do you have something else in mind?
I think if Milun will allow it, he'd offer to help out there to try and pay back the debt.
He will graciously accept that offer, so you'll be helping him. Estêvão and Elyas, then, you take to the streets. The rain has thankfully stopped, so things are still quite damp, muddy in parts. The air is quite cool, but at least you're not having anything on your heads immediately, other than the drip from overhanging structures. Let's talk about devoting some time in broad to Estêvão trying to track down the Templar spy network. So as mentioned before, this is a difficult insight test, meaning it is you need a 21 or higher to pass it. The skill required is insight, but you can add any like whichever attribute you think applies most. And this will allow you to make contact with the spy network. You will have like followed the trail. You will have deduced something important or to similar effect. And I like using you mentioned like going to this like church again. Is it the same church, like a different church? Is just kind of like following up on similar threads?
I think it's the same church. I think we said there was something architecturally that gave Estêvão a hint that there's
yes,
it
was one of the depictions of there's some, I think it was like one of the bas relief carvings or something like that. Yes, I recall. I will say that returning to this site again will invoke the possibility of increasing pursuit points just to visit a site of the Catholic Church. So one of you needs to give me a faith plus religion test. This is going to be a challenging difficulty. So an 18 or higher is needed, or else you will gain a pursuit point. Not enough to bring you over to to carry you all over the threshold. You're currently at 4. But even if your Templar apparel or other, aspects of your gear and stuff is not apparent, your behavior might be put under scrutiny. Someone might say something to the wrong person. Who knows? Who wants to attempt the test while you're here?
Faith religion sounds like an Elia kind of thing.
Sounds like an Elia kind of thing. Can I argue for advantage given that fictionally last time we rolled like quite well, and we said that the way that I helped was basically by establishing a bond with the local priest there?
Yes.
So couldn't we say that
yeah.
that helps because it makes sense for me to go back to a person that
absolutely.
like, yeah.
I really do think that is like a good source of advantage. So like kind of what makes this like a vector of possible failure, like what like some consequences are, is even though you are on good terms with this priest from your previous visit, that like there may be other people visiting, or perhaps, there are French guards. Who knows? Like there could be any number of reasons why, like, even though the person here doesn't put you under scrutiny, someone else might. So
Absolutely.
You can roll with advantage. So 3d10 and keep the 2 highest. Oh,
Can I help?
you do not have a +2 in religion, I believe.
I think I do have a
think you
+2 in
do.
religion.
Oh, you do? Oh, you do have +2.
Yeah, I think that's why I upped mine, because I
that is
used to
correct.
have it lower. And
I was
like,
looking
that
at
doesn't make sense.
I was looking at the wrong stat. Yes, you do. You may absolutely help. In this case, I mean, they already have advantage, so you could either let them add your skill, so an additional +2 to the test, or you can grant them a full reroll of any number of dice.
Let's do the reroll.
Okay.
Sure.
So Elyas, you can roll 3 dice, and then you'll have the opportunity to reroll any number of them.
Okay.
Chasing them crits.
Oof.
Chasing them crits.
I mean, I have a double 2, but that's not enough to get us over.
So wait, that's 2 plus what? Yeah, it's not
plus
unfortunately not
5.
Yeah. Not unfortunately not enough.
Yeah, I also have a 5, so I'll keep that one, and I'll just re-roll the 2.
Okay, good.
Should I just roll everything? Let's just re-roll everything. A 5 is not great.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
That brings us to a crit of a double 7 for a 14 plus 5 is a 19.
Incredible. Hell yeah. As per the rule, so you both may take an advancement point because there was a critical.
Because advantage allows me to take the crit because there's an 8, but I can take the 2 7s.
You can take whatever dice are best. In this case, the crit is. Yeah, I love it. As per the rules, as when it comes to crits outside of combat, you accomplish your task with a flourish or just some other like extra level of capability. What might that look like in this scene? I'm open to. I have final say, but I'm open to like suggestions.
So like this is basically like, why don't we get noticed, right?
Like, it just kind of like, in what way is it like particularly like capable, or like why you succeed so well? I don't think like, one of the examples in the game mentioned like, oh, you do it with a flourish. It doesn't quite apply here. Something I'm thinking about is just like the fact that you are on such good terms with the priest. I do think that it's just like, we can probably say that like you have found like a fairly like sympathetic priest to the cause. So even if like, like he can't like offer you like shelter or anything of significance, but like you're in his good graces, and he would like maybe even take some of the heat off of your back if he was concerned that you were in danger in his side.
I like to think that maybe we know. Because like in this period of time, like you would have like your local church, and even if you're like a criminal or like seeking wealth or whatever, you would still be extremely religious. So I like to think that maybe we see, like one person leaving as we sort of enter the church that has like clearly, like done with a conversation with the priest, and we see the priest look up like, oh, big smile, like, oh, hey, they're back, we can nerd out again. And I think it's just a matter of like, no one in this immediate, or like most people in this immediate community, don't want to fuck over this priest. Like you don't want to be in bad standing with your priest, and you don't want to maybe scrutinize the people that he's clearly fond of like too much, right? So there's like almost like a bit of a respect of, like a glance away of like, yeah, you just do your thing.
I love it. I think honestly, and because it's been such a theme with Elyas thus far, is like, there's something you do either here on the site or in conversation with this priest that just it really just emphasizes your faith, you being such a deeply religious person, very faithful, and it's welcome. Yeah, I think that's how it plays out. So while you are in these good graces, you have this scene. Estêvão, you're trying to suss out more of what you may have been missing. I'll say that we will trigger the roll here. I don't think there's necessarily anything more to be gained from this location. Like it's not like you're going to find some like, new thing, but this is a sort of like reflective of like, you're using this as a starting point, and then the result of your test will sort of color the your efforts as time unfolds. So I don't think the answer will come immediately here, but we can use it to at least kick off the roll. Obviously, there is no huge consequence for failing on this. It is reflective of another dead end that you're having more difficulty. Elyas, you are helping with this, I believe, because you have insight of +2. I'm going to say, I think Estêvão, you deserve having advantage on this test because you've been like doggedly pursuing it, and you are also extremely intelligent, and you guys have gotten in such good graces with this place that maybe even the priest, even though he's not with the network, might have useful information. So I think you deserve advantage by default. Elyas.
I think that's how I'm helping, right? Like I'm talking to this priest and I'm not like laying it on thick or anything. But I think where before I was running distraction, now I'm seeking, like just some subtle things where maybe this person like gives us some directions or hints is I think how I'm helping.
I love it. Do you want to add your skill bonus or do you want to give him a reroll?
I'll give you a reroll.
Okay. What attribute are you using here, Estêvão?
Oh, intellect.
Okay, so intellect plus insight, which is putting you at a +7 to your roll. This is a difficulty of 21. So you need a 14 or higher on the die. You have advantage and a full reroll. So not bad.
Not great, but yeah, go for it. 10, 5, and 1. So that's 15.
+7. You got it. 22.
I'll re-roll the 1.
Yeah. See if you get a crit. Yeah,
just
exactly.
in case.
Just in case. Yeah.
That's another 5, but 2 5s would make 10 plus 7. That's not enough. So we're going to go with 10 and 5.
Okay. You do it. You're going to make contact with the spy network. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. I think that's going to eat up some of your time. I think you'll be doing that for a while. Elyas will have to leave at some point and then to go to Alphonse and speak with him. But I assume, Estêvão, you're more than capable and confident in handling the task alone once you are following up on a pretty good lead. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Very good. Let's take a break and then we will resume from there. So Estêvão, after Elyas departs at one point, you'll be left on your own. You are going to suss out a means to contact this network. That does not necessarily mean that there's going to be like an immediate like access of several different benefits, but you have your point of contact. And maybe it's in the church, maybe it's something that you suss out and then follow a thread and then leads you to something. But it's going to take you to a laborer's part of the city where, you find the usual like craftsmen and such like. If you have an idea or feel confident in coming up with it off the fly, I would love to hear like what you think might be some detail or element of having sussed out that led you to this place where an abundance of craftspeople are.
Do you mean just like a marker or?
Yeah, well, a marker, whether it was like something about like some kind of clue you followed. Because I have some thoughts about like the contacts themselves, but less so like the actual trail you follow to get there. So even in brief, if you have any thoughts about how he follows that trail.
Yeah, the only kind of thread I'm running with is like the sort of like Freemasons Association. But even then I'm like, what other than just like some blatantly obvious like overly elaborate sigil, and I'm trying to get a little bit more creative than that, and just struggling.
I have a thought. No, I think I'll throw something out there. I think it's kind of like exactly what you're saying though, right? Where it's like that is so very obvious. That is like just so on the nose, right? And I think it might actually be a bit of like a red herring, like it is not actually the thing you're supposed to be looking at. I think that the church's crucifix, like this, like like wooden carved depiction of Jesus on the cross. I think you suss out that it's like, oh wait, hold on, this carving is obvious in this one area, but actually it's referring to something about Jesus on the cross. And I think it's one of those shots where it's like you're like pondering it, you're thinking, and just like in like blurred out in the background or the foreground is this like crucifix hanging over the church, and it's just like a wait, it's like an aha moment, like wait a second, you turn and you see it. And as you get closer, I think you notice like there's like a maker's mark, like from the person who carved this. And through conversations with the priest, having struck up like friendly relations with Elyas, gives you the name, of the person who carved that crucifix. They're like they were a very skilled carpenter. Like a master carpenter from here in Royan, and they made it, and then you begin to follow that trail, and it's like okay, wait, so the carving referred to something about the crucifix. Crucifix was done by a carpenter. You are hoping this is a good trail, because otherwise you're about to lose a lot of time. And when you get to a part of Royan where there are more like craft people, particularly carpenters, you'll very quickly find out that master craftsman is like several years dead, but their apprentice still very much alive. And his name is Jean Baptiste, and you have the address of his workshop here in Royan. When you get there, there is just like the smell, in addition to the usual sense of the city. Like this part has like just like the you can smell just metal from like blacksmith forges somewhere. There's that general kind of like underlaying like wood, like wood shaving smell, like you'd get at like a sawmill. And you can just hear all around you amidst the hustle, just the hammering away at things. As you approach this carpentry, it is immediately apparent that you followed the right trail. There is something about this scene that is a sign that is a code sign for the spy network. What is that? And I should emphasize, it's fine to be extremely tropey. We have the fucking holy grail in our possession. Like we can be tropey. I don't mind how on the nose things are from here.
Yeah, like a physical sign that this is part of the spy network.
It could be physical, or it could even be something that's like mentioned in conversation by someone, or I don't know, like whatever you think is
who
the confirming detail.
um I'm gonna say oh man. What comes to mind is an olive tree, as in extending an olive branch, a sign of peace. Also the first thing the bird brought back after the flood to show signs of life. But there are 3 olive trees planted and growing in succession.
Ooh.
The 3 being just it's all over, well, several religions, but Father, Son, Holy Spirit in this case, so on and so forth. But yeah, there's, and I think Estêvão even like saw a drawing or a diagram, or has even seen like dried olive tree leaves like in some of the books that he was cataloging for the Grandmaster, and knows that 3 olive trees grown in this style or in this succession um, has a significant meaning here.
I love it. As you approach, as you're walking up, Monsieur Nivelle's hackles are raised. There is what looks kind of like a stray dog just like sitting outside of the carpenter, just like hanging out nearby. It is a Berger Picard with a brindle coat. And Monsieur Nivelle, like his hackles get raised when he sees a dog. He kind of mews a little grumpily. This dog sees Monsieur Nivelle and sits up rather quickly, eyes wide, and then just gives like a little whimper and like begins to back away.
Actually, I'm going to change it slightly.
Okay.
Really quickly. It's the sound.
Okay.
It's the timbre of the hammering is in a specific pattern, a password. The Freemasons are all probably instructed to like, and if you've ever listened to a blacksmith, they have that like very specific like that a rhythmic kind of like ting ting pop pop ting ting pop pop. And so like here the hammer, the way that this carpenter is hammering is that very specific, like
I got it. If you don't mind me jumping in here,
go for
which is that it's specifically, I think because yes, I know absolutely what you're talking about, like working to a rhythm, especially with a blacksmith. For a carpenter, because this is a detail I've been pulling from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is like blacksmithing way you can do it to a tune. And like most blacksmiths like whistle or sing something while they're blacksmithing. I love the idea of it's to the exact like rhythm of like or like meter of like a very recognizable like hymn, like that you'd be very familiar with, and that hymn, whatever it is laced with like things that make it very clear. It's like, oh, that's a code.
Like that, you know how if I do dot 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 dot, everybody in their family knows how to finish that phrase. This is that
the extremely Catholic Templar version about that. The Templar Catholic spycraft version of shaving a haircut.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. So this dog seems absolutely terrified of Monsieur Nivelle. Just like whimpers and just like spins and like backs away, gets the other end of the alleyway, barks a few times, and just kind of like watches. But other than that, the dog seems to do nothing else. When you enter the carpenter's workshop, there are a couple of people working here, kind of just like not necessarily apprentices, but definitely like hired on hands. The place, I guess, richly smells like you would expect a carpenter to smell. But the source of the hammering, or just where you'd be directed, is to the master of the workshop, and this is Jean Baptiste. He is middle-aged. He has the look of a laborer. And by that, I simply mean that you can just see his forearms and his hands and know that this is a man who has like practiced a craft for many, many years. He's just dressed in pretty simple clothes. And despite the cool air, he does seem to be sweating a bit from just getting up to all this work. He's very like strong-bodied. He's in the continued theme that, as Jazzy will point out, like he's just hot like everyone else is apparently. But he very much looks just like rank and file common folk. He's just kind of like keeping his hair out of his eyes under a cap, and just seems to be minding his work. And when you approach, he doesn't look up from what he's doing, but he does like briefly side-eye the cat. And just mutters to himself while he's working. Cabot does not like cats.
Deepest apologies.
He's not my dog. He's just going to be terrified all day. But that aside, what can I help you with? Are you looking to commission a piece of work? You should speak with any of my hired hands. I'm rather busy at the moment, attending to something.
I'm looking for, and then I give the name of his master, the name that I got from the cross.
Mm. If there's like a flick of suspicion or alert in his bearing, you don't see it. He just carries on working, saying, yes, I am sorry to be the one to tell you. He passed some 11 summers ago, but taught me everything. And this was his old workshop. I've had the place fixed up. I am just as capable as my master was. I am sorry to disappoint, however. Is there a reason in particular you were seeking after his works? He crafted many things.
I'm not looking to commission a work. I'm here on business from I give the name of the Grand Master.
Oh, Jacques Desmoulins.
Yeah, I'm here on business from one Jacques Desmoulins in
He
Paris.
freezes. He stops working. There's a stiffness in his bearing. And he glances at you, looks you up and down properly for the first time, transitions to like more like a casual lean against the bench of his workshop, dusting off his hands against his thighs. He goes, can't say I do a lot of work with out of Paris. Desmoulins, the name is a nobleman, perhaps? I can check through my master's old book of receipts and transactions if there was some sort of craft done many years ago that we could follow up on.
That would be helpful, but I think we're here to possibly forge new connections or possibly commission new work. But it's quite dangerous in Paris right now.
Yes, I heard. There's a lot of uproar, a lot of news coming out. King seems to be a pretty busy man these days.
Quite. Anyways, I just thought there might be an old connection there. I'm terribly sorry to hear about your master's passing. You were saying something about old books, though.
Well, they are entangled and frankly illegible at times. My master did not keep a good personal system of organizing. Really, he just wrote receipts in any substance he had at hand. And I'm going to pull back a little bit to just say that as part of this conversation, he does not suspect you of anything and is trusting you. So everything he says from here, it is under the pretense of like, we are speaking vaguely out of caution, but I'm cooperating with you. He says,
yeah.
Oh, what, do you have something else?
I was gonna say, whatever he's working on, I think Estêvão will just like give a compliment to his work, but in so doing, he'll knock on it in either that same specific pattern, or if there is like the shave and the haircut has that counter,
the finishing bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think I love that. That's a great detail. Yeah, you do that, and he just like nods, like solemnly, but he just picks up his tools and gets ready to start working again. He says, I can ask around. Perhaps I will have something useful to for you to follow up on. Now, let's talk about mechanics for a moment. What this contact is going to do is run your request up the chain of the network here, and then it will run back down for him. I think you would know that the way that a spy network works is that it's organized into like little like sections, right? There are like various informants in a location. Those informants report to a minister, and the minister in turn reports to the leader of the network, a precept. So effectively, whatever information or request you put in with Jean-Baptiste is going to up the line, it'll come back down, and so it'll take maybe like a little bit of time, but not hopefully too long. So let's talk about spy network services. This is like the actual mechanical matter of using of spy networks. You can use a spy network to do a couple of different services. And here I'm just pulling this up again, just to make sure I don't gloss over anything. Spy networks. Okay, so the simplest option is to use the spy network for information. So for the cost of 1 pursuit point each, you can ask me, the Grand Master, any number of questions. Per pursuit point, which I will answer as truthfully as the narrative will allow. This is the information the spy network can pull for you. You can use it, and also every time that you ask a question and gain a pursuit point, we have to roll to see if the network is exposed, and this can no longer be used. The second service you could possibly use is you can leverage the network for supplies, or various resources. So again, you spend a pursuit point to gain like a vital piece of equipment, a necessary action, or the ability to take like an additional downtime action if you were taking downtime in an area. And as with information, we roll to see if the network is exposed. The third and final and most difficult option is to use the spy network for a safe house. They will provide you with a place to shed all of your pursuit points to effectively go to ground and make it more difficult for your foes to find and catch you. However, the spy network will be automatically exposed, rendered useless, and any pursuit points thereafter gained in Royan are automatically doubled. And then when you leave Royan, you'll automatically gain like 2d3 pursuit points, not doubled. So those are your 3 options: information, supplies, or the safe house. And so I'll let you think on this for a moment, because I want to know what you might want to run up the chain here. Maybe we'll talk about that amongst ourselves. But we'll come back to that discussion, because I want to shift focus now back over to Elyas and Torben. You reconvene. Is Torben planning to accompany Elyas to Alphonse's home for this noon meeting?
Absolutely.
Very good. So the two of you, departing the Basilisk's Den, you notice a couple of things on your walk. First of all, I must ask the usual. Elyas, how obvious are you dressed?
I mean, I think the same. So I have the Templar outfit on, but like the cloak over it.
Mm-hmm. And we know that Torben is much more hidden than that. But with the cloak over it, it's not as necessarily dangerous. But I'm sitting on the right to be like, we'll need to test to see if anything gets noticed. But for now, we'll kind of keep the low profile. But while you're crossing Royan to the more like noble part of the city, looking out at the river, you see that a couple of barges have arrived into port, coming downriver, coming from the direction of Paris. And these barges carry French soldiers with the livery of the king and of the Paris armed forces, possibly even knights. It seems that there are more people arriving in Royan on your heels, but you don't encounter any of them in the streets, but you do clock their arrival. When you reach Alphonse's home, it is a townhouse, effectively. There's a market nearby, and it's not by far like, I would hardly call this place palatial. Alphonse seems to be in like of middling to lower nobility for what is considered at this time. And so the townhouse itself, it's a good structure, like stonework, a couple stories, maybe like 3 or 4. And when you knock, you are greeted by who you assume to be a servant of House Leloup. This very like taciturn, upright posture man in like a yellowed like doublet, tanned, very tanned skin, clean shaven, just hair slicked back, just eyes the two of you in the doorway. Doesn't say anything, but just opens the door all the way to let you in, as if this servant was expecting you. And when you step in, he closes the door behind you and just says, please follow me. And just, walks past the little like entry like space here. There's like a long table where some like remnants of like food have been laid out. There's a fire crackling in the hearth. There's a couple of other servants milling about, just tidying the place up. Though the house is largely quiet. There doesn't seem to be a ton of activity from the usual inhabitants. And in like a hallway around the back, you see Alphonse coming down the stairs, and dressed in more fitting attire and cleaned up as he is, he doesn't look any less unscrupulous. And he just has that same exact expression he wore last night of saying, Elyas Beaumont and his friend. So lovely to see you both again. Come, I'm delighted you came. Would either of you care to take me up on my offer for we can get you properly bathed? Have you eaten? Would you like, we have some food. I'd be more than happy to bring out a carafe of wine for an old friend.
I think you see, like sort of the conflict in Elia, where I think we had sort of almost like a comical moment where he stepped up to this like pretty nice house in like, clothes that smell of 2 weeks of travel, and all of that, and still had like an expression like, oh, that's it. Like absolutely not impressed. And then I think he was kind of baffled that there isn't a lot of life, but now being tempted with all of these worldly goods, there's like a part of him that's like, I don't want anything from you. And then another part, it's like, oh my God, yes, please, please, please. And I think he just gives like, like a smile and says, far be it from me to deny such hospitality on account of my host.
He just flashes his little wolfish smile. His eyes look over to Torben. The offer seems to be for him as well.
I think at the mention of a bath, Torben's eyes sparkled a little bit, but he's going to defer to Elliot here.
Oh, then it seems it's in the affirmation. Alphonse just grins, claps his hands together. Very good. I can tell that you have had a long journey on the road. It would certainly befit the both of you to shed the excess you have had thus far. I personally love a bath after an evening spent in the common quarters. There's something almost like removing a second skin, as it were. You've met my man, Romain. Please have the girls bring a bath together. He looks at the two of you, and he says, we have the one room, but we have 3 tubs. Do you care to bathe at the same time, or shall we have the girls heat up a little extra water for whoever wants to have the second go round?
I figure they're soldiers. There's nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think Elia will say that he needn't go, to such trouble for his guests. Be very polite about it.
Yes, and the servant, now identified as Romain, just gives a nod and carries out the task, and the servants prepare a bath for you. The wooden tubs are filled up with like hot, slightly soaked water. There are maybe like some like lightly perfumed oils to put into the mix as well. And outside the washroom, Alphonse would make the comment of like, I would offer if we had more time. I know how fraught your schedule is, but if we had more time, I could not possibly recommend a trip to my favorite bathhouse in the city more. There is a bathmaid there. Her name is Fleurette. Oh, she works wonders. You would love her, but I'm afraid, just given the time, you can make do, but don't hesitate to ask for anything you might need. We've given plenty for you to use to your own comforts.
You have been most gracious. We shall require nothing else.
Mm-hmm. And do you have anything either of you would like to say to the other while bathing? You have the relative privacy. No one, there aren't like maybe like a serving woman like walks in to like pour in like more hot
Yeah, I
water.
think Elia is like very awkward about the serving woman because now he's like the noble part of his brain is like this is fine, this is good, but like the pious boy part of his brain is like woman who sees me naked, no.
I think
Yeah, I
Torben's
think
in full man spread, just like arms on the side of the tub. He has no modesty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I love it. Yeah, you can bathe afterwards, feeling refreshed. Alphonse will retire to his bedchambers for you three to speak uh, more privately, though Romaine is present. Uh, a side table in his room. He has like a pitcher of wine out and available. Offers you to please have a drink. And he says, personally, I get rather tired of the stuff myself. I'm thrilled when I get to visit any of the seedy establishments to drink beer, but we do have an excess of wine. I'm afraid that if Mother won't allow Father to drink it in his ailing state, well, someone has to tap the barrel, and it might as well be me.
Indeed. It is a shame I cannot invite you to my house to sample some of its finest wares
Oh, no, I
that you would
imagine.
never grow tired of.
One, I could imagine that your home is rather stripped of its former virtue. Terrible shame, real tragedy. I always was taken with your sister. She was a delightfully entertaining girl.
Oh, the knuckles on the cup go fully white as he says that. Like the smile remains, but the just like the tightening.
How fares your cousin Justine, by the way? I heard that she got married to a particularly wonderful family. Quite a lot of money in it. Very prestigious of her. That was before things tended to reach a boiling point. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Well, it was never much of in doubt that Justine would find herself such a wonderful match. I
Mm.
hear he is very good to her, as he should be.
Yes, indeed. I have to commend you, Elias, for you to join up with the Templars and give an oath and disavow yourself of any future romantic endeavors. And I mean, certainly, it is a very godly thing to do, I assume, but the good Lord knows, I could never give up such pursuits myself. You are a stronger man than I am.
Oh, not at all. We can all be in God's grace. This life shall be short, and his paradise shall be for eternity.
Quite, yes, yes. He looks at you and he says, by your accent, good sir, am I correct in assuming you're a Dane?
Indeed.
Oh, lots of you are quite capable, as I've heard, very able bodied, good at fighting, even if you weren't a Templar, I'd assume.
Yes. Hopefully you'll never get to find out.
Well, I think that's a lovely note for us to segue into the reason why you all came here. I figure that we can dispense of all the other frivolities. I'm in a rather difficult position here, Elias. You see, as I mentioned last night, I and my family, we have been good, loyal, dutiful servants of the king for generations. And King Philip, though harsh, is certainly done nothing to cross my family, and we serve him and his ordained societal rules with absolute devotion. But I do find myself conflicted. This decrying of your order, once heralded so high as heretics and traitors to France, and it is also very confounding. I feel torn between my duties to my country and the duties to a friend.
And what might I do to ease such a troubled heart?
Well, now that you mention it, there is a recent matter, a sort of indiscretion, an inconvenience, really, that I see divine providence in your arrival at this time. It is almost convenient. You are here exactly at the moment I could have someone come to my aid. There is a gentleman, although I truly neglect to call him such, for his behavior has been most disagreeable, and he is far from a noble. He is a tradesman, wealthy, successful, goes by Marchand, Gautier Marchand. And some months ago, I commissioned the fellow for some of his wares. Quite a capable works in textiles. I desired some new doublets and boots and pants and such like. And well, I had heard very highly of his services, and he was unfortunately quite a disappointment. And well, I ultimately refused to pay the bloke. I let the matter drop from there. I was not going to pay for quality that I could not stand for. And then, well, here I admit my own moral failings. You see, I tend to forget the differences in my imbibements at certain social functions. It's not at all the same as when I'm out carousing with the common folk. There I can be unburdened from the niceties, as it were. Well, this might not surprise you, but I'm ashamed nonetheless. I may have gotten far too deep into my cups at a gathering that good Master Gautier was at with his wife Nina. And I did not know at the time that this beautiful, lovely Nina was married to this scoundrel. I admit that when I am plied with enough wine, I have a tongue that almost struggles to be a bit of a poet. And I may have found myself dressing her up and down with flowery words and romantic ideals. Like I said, I had no idea the woman was married, but Gautier was, he was furious. He was absolutely wretched. And the fellow, this merchant, challenged me to a duel. Can you believe such a thing?
Well, the audacity. I think like Elia is kind of fully into this story. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh my God, this is like gossip like back in the old day. I fucking love this shit.
Well, normally I wouldn't deign to stoop so low as to accept such a thing, but unfortunately, the Master Marchand does have a fair bit of influence, and he has the ear of many people, and, well, Mother would be most put out if I had another scandal. So I agreed. I mean, Romain is competent enough to appoint him as my man in the fight, but I have heard that the gentleman Gautier has some experience in fighting. Now, this is not a fight to the death. We're not savages, merely to first blood. And given the fact that Gautier is not a noble, but a merchant, he won't even be allowed to wear heavy armor or wield anything other than a mace, perhaps, or a hammer if he feels so lowly, but nothing bladed. Even with those advantages in my court, Romain, as good as he is, I cannot help but think that if he were to be properly put in his place by someone far more trained and capable, it would really get him to drop these matters and just understand that we can just let this matter drop. So
why not simply appoint one of us as your champion?
that is exactly what I was thinking, Elyas. What a brilliant idea. I didn't want to broach the subject myself, but if you were to, one of you, to step in as my champion to help trounce this Gautier properly, to embarrass him thoroughly with a thrashing, then I can see that indeed my heart speaks truest to your virtues, and I won't have any qualms about some enemies of the state having snuck by under my nose. I might even be inclined to help them more.
I think Elia kind of like glances at Torben, like he doesn't want to put you forward if you don't want to, but he also knows how much you love just punching people.
I think Torben is playing with the bathwater, just kind of making small waves. And when Elyas looks over at him, he just kind of arches an eyebrow. And
do you wish to be Alphonse's champion? Fight someone?
I am no mercenary, Elyas. I am not a sellsword or... This man has done nothing wrong other than offend your friend.
We are settling a matter of honor. That is not what a sellsword does. It is perfectly fine for a noble to appoint himself a champion.
He'll lean forward. This is beneath us.
How so? This is a matter of honor, of a nobleman.
Yes, that is my point.
Oh, very well, if you will not do it, then I shall. But he looks like genuinely disappointed in you.
Are you asking this of me?
Not if it is another question that it seems we have found ourselves on the different viewpoints on. Sacrifice no more for me than you would.
Very well. I will do it.
Alphonse's eyebrows go up. He claps excitedly and grins, and he says, "You are a godsend, sir. Your friend here, Elyas, tends to keep very good friends. Now then, Romain, please fetch a fitting. You have enough armor, but we don't want anyone else to necessarily see anything that would imply where your allegiances truly are. We can get you fitted with some sort of a frock over, so you can just seem to be merely armored. You don't have to bear any insignias that would be damning. If you are in need of a shield or a blade, well, I have access to those, but something tells me that you have your own."
Yes.
Splendid. Let us send word immediately to this merchant and arrange to meet and settle this duel upon the hill outside the city. Splendid, gentlemen. Oh, a toast to your virtues. He holds up his wine goblet and downs it.
I think he'll say something, like to new friendships or something annoying like that.
So, going back over to Estêvão, or rather, let's open the conversation up about the services for this spy network, what you might be interested in doing. So, as a reminder, I've seen some chatter here in the Zoom call, but we can talk about it out loud. As a reminder, one of the, this could be a good lead for finding a lead or information on the smuggler and their contact that Estêvão was trying to find out a little bit more as well, or it can be for entirely different things. Let's talk about how we want to handle this. What services are we looking to request?
So just a quick clarification on the question thing. Is it one pursuit point and then I just get to ask a bunch of
One
questions, or
pursuit
one
point per
per
question.
question?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there was that. There was the go to ground, and then there was the middle option. Was that supplies?
Yes, you can spend a pursuit point to get like a vital piece of equipment, a necessary like downtime action, or sorry, a necessary item, or it says additional downtime action. Because this is an unsafe city, you could spend a pursuit point to just have to do a downtime action, as like it would be like representative of like the supplies they could get for you. So you could all do a downtime, one action each. I think I'll say that's like it would be like for like you can all three get the benefits of it, but you would select the one action, reflective of something that they can arrange for you.
Okay, so yeah, we could like take a downtime action and like do an advancement, since we've been banking some of these advancement points.
This is true.
I still need 2 more, so I don't need
All
that.
right,
But
well, we'll
please.
hold off on that then.
I mean, if you two want to, please do feel free.
And there might be, and just to put it out there, this is not the only Templar spy network you'll find. Like, there are plenty of other cities and towns that might have their own spy network. So this is not like the only opportunity you'll have for one.
Yeah, so I think the most pressing matter, like, because I don't think we need supplies, but they're kind of more general supplies. I don't think there's any vital supply that I can think of, unless we're talking like a ship. But it seems like we're coming at that from the angle of we have a contact. We're just trying to get in contact with them.
Yeah, you're trying to find out who the smuggler's contact is. So you can find the smuggler. Or and again, like this is a very open campaign. So like I will just put it out there as a reminder that finding the smuggler is but one option that you guys chose to follow up on. You could ultimately decide to abandon that and cut a different path or find a different way, and that wouldn't derail me none, because that was just the thread y'all decided to follow, in which case we'll just approach something differently. But yeah, I'm open to whatever.
Yeah.
I'll also bait the hook a little bit and be like, another, if you're using information, if you ended up asking me any questions about any of the people who are after you, that is also a way you could possibly find out more about some of the mysteries I've seeded.
Oh, I have an idea there. I don't know if it's necessarily worth a pursuit point. But it wasn't about Mr. Eye Patch Night.
Oh, interesting.
But I'll save that for a second. Let's use because if I do 2 things, we're at 4 pursuit points. If I do 2 things, that gets us to.
Yeah, we should probably do 1 for now, and then unless we want drama, but
I mean, drama is fun, but also we're not ready.
I'm at 5.
We're not ready for. I mean, Torben
Let's go.
Torben's gonna get in a fight here in a second anyway.
I love how I just with full confidence at like, yeah, I'll fight a dude at like 5 stamina. And I would have done it too.
So part of me is like, let's ask a question about how we can get in contact with our smuggler's contact. And part of me wants to ask my other burning, boiling question. But I don't want to do both. But we also could just keep asking around at the Basilisk's Den. That's been our thing. We kind of gotten some clues there.
Yeah, we could also ask more about the Grail. And what
That's kind of where I was going. Yeah.
I'm fine with either of those questions. I feel like we can try and get in contact. Although, I mean, it does feel like we're maybe running out of time a little, given that there's like extra soldiers. So I don't know how long we can stay in the Basilisk's Den.
Yeah, this is true.
Like,
the noose,
hi.
It's visually, the noose is tightening in Royan a little bit. Like you're noticing things more.
Yeah.
But I am impartial to this discussion. I'm just here to answer the questions if they come up. And as a reminder, with the where we left off with your investigation in the Basilisk Den, you had asked around, and the result, because you hadn't succeeded, but I think you were off by like a point, and I had told you that there was some suspicion, like levied back at you from the patron, but you were able to figure out kind of like a vague clue, but a narrow one nonetheless. That was that the smuggler's contact who frequents the den is apparently considered a foreigner.
Foreigner, yeah.
Yeah, foreigner in the sense of like they are not from France, but they're not like someone who is typically seen in France from afar. Like, so they apparently aren't like German or Spanish or Italian or something like that. You don't know anything more than that, but other than the fact that they're a foreigner. So
how confident are we that we can find the contact without using the spy network?
I mean, just roll some crits. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah, sure.
Just roll some damn crits,
Sure,
Kevin. Yeah. That's all we need.
Yeah, no biggie.
Yeah, just do it. I'm honestly fine either way. I think, like, what do we think narratively is more interesting? Do we want to kind of keep RPing to find him and get like info on an overarching question? Or do we want to basically be like, listen, I spent 3 hunt tokens. We're here. And we do something else.
Cool. Then I want to ask, I think narratively this wouldn't make sense to ask later.
Mhm.
I want to know about why the Bowman clan was wiped out.
This little shit.
I want Estêvão to ask. Really, I mean, I really want Estêvão to just kind of like dig more. And there's the Avalonis angle, like, and I don't know. Estêvão might have a better way of wording this, but I want to dig deeper on Avalonis, the name that was mentioned in the bottom of the Bowman household, but also, yeah, I don't think we've ever gotten a clear, concrete answer as to why, even after Elyas leaving the house and joining the Templars and swearing the oath, they were still dismantled. And I want to know, I think there's something there. I want to know more about the crimes of the Bowman household, and were they involved in dark magic?
Okay. I love this. Yeah.
Never
like,
trust your friends.
part of like the book's advice, it's just like the step behind the scenes for a moment, is like these questions should like relate to the current situation or seed future adventures and goals for the characters. It should not be like broad campaign sweeping questions. I don't think this is a broad campaign sweeping question. I think that this is a really good like seed of a plot thing, right? So you're asking effectively like, what's the deal with what happened to the Beaumonts? Like, you okay, gotcha. Well, if that's what you're doing, let's raise the pursuit point counter up to 5. And
I guess if I could be a little more specific, it would be like,
Sure.
what is the relationship between the Bowman and Avalonis? But that might be
Avalonis is a campaign-wide question.
Okay, that is.
I'll let you know
question.
that is a
Got
campaign-wide question. The Beaumonts, less so. So I'm willing to allow a question about the Beaumonts, but
what led to the fall of the Bowman clan, or were the Bowmans involved in anything unsavory?
1 second, and I need to roll a die to see if you asking this question causes the network to be exposed. You'll get the benefits, like it'll happen. You'll get the information, but this network will be burned out. It'll be exposed and will not be used anymore. Might get some people in trouble. Who knows? As I wait for my die roller to load because it's frozen. Come on.
Now I'm kind of happy that we didn't get to do the scene between Estêvão and Elia, because Elia was basically going to be like, hey, I know I reacted badly, but I'll help you. You can like learn about this, but this is so much worse. Now you're doing it behind his back without his permission.
Drama.
This is so much juicier. So I'm going to retcon that in my head. He would absolutely not be on board with it.
I'm going to roll a d8. If it is a 4 or lower, the network is exposed because it's the number of pursuit points if you had to roll lower than, and that's a 7. So the network is good. You get to ask that question. Narratively, Jean-Baptiste, as an informant, will report it to a minister, who will then report it to the precept, and it will follow back down the chain with whatever information you need, and it will get back to you. I will just give you the answer now, even though, like, you know, narratively, you might not have it at this moment. It's a thing that you will find out from this network. Ostensibly, quite literally, on the surface of things, the Beaumont family had been accused of like witchcraft, doing black magic. This is not quite the truth, but the Beaumonts are not necessarily innocent of anything. The Beaumonts are an old house, but a kind of disregarded one that is like, it's been around for a while, but no one really like doesn't have like that much influence. It's really kind of like fallen. Like the House of Blois, which is the house that has given rise to most of the line of kings in France and even a few English kings, has the most power in the country by far. The Beaumonts predate the House of Blois. Like they've been around for a while. And they were a very good source of, like, one might say occult knowledge. But it's very like Belmont family vibe, right? Like monster hunters, people who had engaged with the supernatural regularly. And King Philip. Jazzy, can you just remind me, because I don't quite remember. I'm not sure if it's been talked about that much at the table. How long ago do you envision like your family's being being brought down? Like, how recent of an event is that compared to you joining?
I was thinking it's like fairly recent, given that we are supposedly like fairly recent introductions to the order, right? Like we're not veteran knights.
Correct.
And it would have happened after I joined. So I'm imagining like it's like
less than a
pretty
year
much
old.
Yeah, it's like very fresh and on everybody's mind, even on like the noble houses. Like it's very much like a message that still lingers.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's very recent. So the on the surface answer, as I mentioned, is that, oh yeah, the Beaumont family does black magic, but if the whole arrangement, you know, of Elyas going into the Templars, why would King Philip still do that? King Philip has been chafing against the Templars for a while now. He has issues with you guys for a number of reasons. But this, like, you know, branding of like you being heretics of the state and, you know, and moving from power, it is very much founded on like King Philip not liking the influence that the Templars have and not their resources and all that, and seeing them as a threat to the rule of France and possibly beyond that. Yes, for one reason, the king is a werewolf now. But yeah, I'm trying not to get like too narrowed. I'm trying to keep this nice and like on a broad level of answering your question about like why did this happen. It's because the Beaumonts do have some sort of ties to the Templars. It may not have been hugely formal, like because even Elyas doesn't see it as they had ties between them. But for these reasons of like the Beaumonts' history, King Philip saw them as a threat. And King Philip may have still been planning Friday the 13th of October by that point anyway. Like it's entirely possible that like he was intending to move in it as he did make his move against the Templars, but he just didn't have any qualms about quashing like a limb of those ambitions at the same time, though a little bit more discreetly and with more like public like justification for doing so, of branding them as basically like heretics and witches. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
If there's there's like a part of it I haven't touched on, like feel free to ask a follow-up and I'll let you know if I think it's something you could gain from that.
No, really. I mean, I the player wanted to find more of a lead to chase on the Bowman's connection with supernatural stuff and dark magic. And so if that, and it sounds like that is sort of laced and buried in there. So I am
I'm debating if I want to give like a hook into something as part of this. I'm not sure if it like fits under the umbrella of like why did that happen?
Can I offer something?
Possibly. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking if you want to hook, then part of the reason that it might have happened is that there were rumors, either about maybe like one of those witchcraft rituals or monster hunting things going wrong. So there's like something out there, like a loose end, something like that, right?
I think that's like not like a huge aspect of it, but it's in the mix, right? Like it's being like, oh yeah, like rumors and implications of this, and like effectively it all just ties back to the answer of like King Philip saw them as a threat and ultimately took care of them. That said, I'll add a little extra spicy detail, but I won't expound on it further, which is the house isn't as wiped out as it might appear to be. There are other holdings that I think are beyond the limits of this question, and that if there are any Beaumonts from Paris or relatives who escaped, or any of their servants,
that was going to be my next question, but that would put us to 6
I won't go
points.
into more detail than that without a question, but I will have that come as part of it being like, yes, they were crushed, but they may have also kind of been preparing for it themselves and had contingencies.
Do we want to go to 6 pursuit points, guys? That's Ben's reaction. No. We'll save it. We'll save it for next time. We have to get rid of some of these pursuit points, though.
That was so beautiful.
Next time. Gadget.
Let's take a 5-minute break. Torben and Elyas on a hill outside of Royen. There's like an old oak tree that's growing. It's a pretty decent view of the city. And this is the appointed meeting place for the duel between the appointed champion of Alphonse and Gauthier Marchand. When he first arrives, I think you all had been like waiting there for him, standing atop the hill for a bit. It's like the later afternoon. It is immediately apparent that like Gauthier Marchand is not a nobleman, but is far more respectable than Alphonse. He is he seems to be like a little older than Alphonse, who is like roughly Elyas's age. But is like a somewhat like it has like a faintly like Castilian like blend to some of his features. He has a bit of like the mustache and like goatee going on. Not like noble and prim and proper, just kind of like it looks good on him. He grows it. And you could easily see him dressed, as in like more fashionable clothing, but here he's just wearing like leathers and chains, simple like armor and clothing, not allowed to wear any plate or wield a blade because he's not a nobleman. It seems that he did not appoint a champion. He's doing this duel himself. And Romain is here as well. Gautier has his own man as well. That as you convene, Gautier is just he looks like a little nervous, but mostly just determined to get this done with, although seems somewhat perturbed by Torben's size and bulk. What weapon is Torben wielding in the duel? You are allowed to be heavily armored and wield a blade.
He's got his long sword.
Yeah, sees the blade. Gautier just clears his throat and goes, I do not suppose I need to remind anyone here that this is a agreed duel, not to death, but to first blood, and we shall not be excessive beyond that, and the defeated will be honorable and act accordingly. And Alphonse, who just has a little smarmy smirk, just gives a little shrug, hands clasped behind his back, says, well, it's perfectly agreeable to me. This is my champion. This is Torben. He mutters a few words, and they're kind of just doing some setup in the background of just Romain and Gautier's man are talking. Gautier's just readjusting things, just getting the weight of things checked. Do Elyas and Torben have a little moment before them while you're waiting for the duel to start?
I think Elia just, does the manly clap on the shoulder and just heartfelt will say, thank you.
Torben just grunts and gives Elia a not too kind look.
If you do not wish to do it,
I'm doing it.
Why?
Because you asked.
Gentlemen, are you ready? Very
yes.
well. All right, come stand up. This is Gautier's man speaking. He's dressed with a wide foppish hat, black accented clothing, hands clasped behind his back. It just lays out the rules of the duel as you already understand them, and then just says, on my mark, gentlemen, ready all weapons? Begin. You are a highly competent and trained soldier. Gautier is a merchant who has some experience with a weapon, but the level of difference in your skill is immeasurable. You are far superior to him. You get to just tell me narratively what happens here, because you can just trounce him. This is a case of the Templars. If there were 30 of Gautiers, it would be counted as a mob, but it's just one guy whose skill pales in comparison to your own. You can have you have no difficulty beating him here now. So what do you do, and what does it look like?
At first, Torben's going to kind of rush in like he would against any foe. But I think when he sees this man kind of quail a little bit, he's going to slow down and he's going to give the guy a couple of strikes, nothing through the armor, just enough to make it look like there is actually a fight here. And then I think he's just going to do a quick jab with his sword, almost like it could be an accident, and slice through at the joint of his elbow, just enough to nick the skin and draw blood.
Yeah, the moment blood is drawn, Gautier just shouts out that he yields, and Romain and Gautier's men, run in just to hold up their hands as well. He looks at his wound. It's not that bad as you said. But sees the blood clearly and has his hand over it. Winces a little bit in pain, but is taking it on the chin. He looks at you, gives you a nod, but there is there's a solemnity in it, because he just looks over at Alphonse with an expression that can only be read as "you absolute fucking bastard." He's he hates the fact that he won, but the duel's made. And Alphonse says yes, I believe Master Marchand, you do owe me an apology. Gautier's like, an apology? You clears his throat as he like realizes, he's taken the loss. He goes, yes, I apologize, Lord Leloup, for my offenses. I know my place. I retract. I yield. And there's some wrap up here. This is some like light conversation from amongst the interested parties. But once it's like said and done, like Alphonse like steps aside with the both of you, kind of like looks at you, Torben, and for some reason he seems like not angry, but just kind of like put off, almost like a spoiled brat. Well, he very much is one. He goes, I thought I told you to trounce the bloke. You nicked his arm. What's that? I wanted you to, I don't know, bloody his nose. You're so fucking big. What, you can't at least sprain something?
Is it a bloodied nose you're looking for?
Elyas, he kind of glances. Please keep your dancing bear in check. You did as I asked. I am a little put off by the manner it was measured, but I am, of course, the victor, so I suppose I should be thankful, and I clearly am.
Come on, Alphonse. Is it not better to do it this way? You would not want to be accused of unnecessary brutality. No, let him simmer. Let him simmer in his need to be like us. Pretend at being noble and take it on the chin. And I'm doing I think it's genuinely hard to tell whether Elia is trying to butter him up to get heat of Torben or if he means like every word he's saying right now. But I'm doing like a little like friendly clap on Alphonse's shoulder, like, no, this is more humiliating actually, because now he has to pretend that he's like us.
Yeah. As you're walking back down towards Royanne, like Alphonse does chime in, being like, as I do think about it more, Elyas, you are completely right. There is a lesson to be learned here on Gautier's behalf. And there was an elegance, there was a certain degree of restraint to show that the heavy hand can deal the finishing blow, but not with all of its strength. Yes, good job, Torben. I realize now that your application of your craft was masterful indeed. It gets me thinking that, I think that there's a number of other matters I could use your assistance with. I mean, clearly we're all of the same mind, and I would, of course, hate to feel that my good show of hospitality has been woefully abused and tread on. It's becoming very apparent he's still trying to blackmail you, and might just have another task thrown into the mix.
Torben's gonna growl like a dancing bear would.
I think the worst is that it's kind of clear that Elia kind of like this. Like, I think he loved the gossip, he loved the bath, he loved the wine, and there is like a genuine where I think, like, as he starts to talk like that, like his face will fall a little, and he'll sort of go back into that spiel of, like, Alphonse, we're friends. If you need something, let me suit your heart. But I think it's becoming like more and more apparent that he kind of means that. That he's like, hey, we're both nobles, and I'm here for you. You don't even need to blackmail me. Just tell me what you need, and we'll get that done, right?
Oh my. Torben, how are you feeling about Elyas right now?
He's not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not doing a good job of hiding it, if he's even trying.
Well, gentlemen, I feel like we've had a very wonderful and productive meeting here. Are you staying anywhere, Elyas? Did you secure lodgings for yourself?
Well, if they can be called as such.
And where are you staying? Are you somehow sleeping on the floor at the Basilisks?
There is like be dread. when he doesn't want
My.
to admit it, but
I mean, even I haven't taken my excesses to such a low, but I understand that your circumstances are most unusual. Well, I simply don't think that can stand. I mean, you've done so much for me. The least I could do is offer to house you. My mother would hardly see it as an imposition. The poor woman's usually out of the way, and my father, in his ailing bed, won't take any notice whatsoever. We have spare accommodations. Why don't you stay with me? After all, we can discuss some, I guess, matters of shared interest tomorrow over breakfast, a proper breakfast, not whatever gruel or mash you managed to meagerly put together today.
you don't even want to know. And I think by this time I like fully have my hand like over his shoulder, and we just like Elia, eyes sparkling at the thought of an actual bed in a pretty house. It's just like fully sold. Hook, line, and sinker. Fully into it.
Alphonse like points at Torben as you're walking right now, arm in arm. He goes, I think your friend here might need a second bed, though. Might break the first.
He laughs along. That obnoxious hun noble laughter.
And the dancing bear follows along. Estêvão, after your endeavor with tracking down the spy network, and as I mentioned, I think in the fiction, you don't have the answer yet. That will come to you tonight, I think. Like I think the news can travel, if not tonight, but like probably tomorrow morning. But either way, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, would you return to the Basilisk's Den as like the common like meetup point between yourselves again? Because that's okay. Yeah. It's later in the day by the time you've finished your own errands. Kind of like late afternoon as well. This is around the same time as when Elyas and Torben are walking back into Royan from the duel, and you're back in the lesser part of the city, more in the rough and tumble again. And as you are turning onto the street with the Basilisk's Den, through the crowd, you see someone stepping out of the Basilisk's Den, coming out of the front door, and stepping out onto the street, looking around, and then walking off in a different direction. Now, you see this person and immediately recognize them. And though their armaments are hidden beneath the heavy cloak, same with their armor, in profile, you see the bushy eyebrows and the mustache, the stern face. As his head turns the other way, the leather eye patch of his recently wounded eye, now hidden beneath of the knight, stepping out of the Basilisk's Den, looking across the street, looking around, turning, like walking away, disappearing further into the crowd. What do you do?
The smart thing to do would be to just wait and talk to the barkeep about what he might have been asking about. Am I going to do the smart thing, or am I going to follow him? Yeah, we ain't here to be smart. I want to see if I can get a little intel on our enemy. I'm going to try and tail him.
Okay. Oh my gosh. How fun. I think this absolutely calls for a test. And this is one of my favorite. It's such a minor system detail, but it's like when it comes to opposed rolls, like I don't have stats. I just like it's just 2d10 plus the number of Templars in the scene. So it's like effectively like it kind of leans on the system being like, yeah, you get to do the cool thing of like following this guy. Shit, this is cool. Okay. What, I mean, obviously I assume you're using your stealth skill here.
Yeah.
What attribute are you applying to this?
I mean, I think quickness, well, speed, agility, reflexes. Mm, no, stealth covers so much.
I know, right?
Am I using speed, agility, reflexes? Not really. Am I using intellect? I mean, if this was D&D, it'd be quickness, stealth, like, and there wouldn't even be a discussion about it.
Right.
But here,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, attribute wise, what exactly? I mean, I guess courage, mental
Oh,
fortitude. I mean, it's an awful stat for, well, it's not my worst stat, but it's not my best either. Um,
I mean, I was gonna see like I mean quickness stealth made a lot of sense, but if
yeah,
you're angling for courage stealth of because like this man fucking whooped your ass and you're following him, like
I mean, if you'll buy quickness stealth, then sure. I guess yeah. If I'm pushing my way through the crowd and trying to do so in a way that like keeps my silence, then I guess yeah, quickness stealth would apply. Sure, let's go.
and just the ability to like quickly react and be able to like adjudicate at a moment's notice.
Yeah,
Okay,
that pulpy moment of like he turns back and I'm like behind a corner. Yeah.
yeah. I think you should have advantage on this, if only because like there's a crowd. He also has an eye removed now, so it's like there's quite literally a blind spot that he has that you can leverage. Let's talk about the consequences here because any good test should propel the narrative forward. So I'm not going to say that because even though the deck is stacked in your favor, I'm not going to say that failing just means you lose him. No, that's not interesting. Failing means you get caught. So I will roll 2d10 plus 1. You'll roll 3d10 plus your modifiers. Take the two best.
Well, that's a 10 and 2/8 plus what would it be, 7?
So you'll take the 2 8s and get a crit because that number will already beat his roll. So that means you'll take the crit, which means you take an advance point. Yeah.
Lovely.
Would you care to like narrate the scene a little bit? This is where the kind of like higher stakes but still slightly, one might say, whimsical musical track in the background would play as you are stealthily following the eye patch knight.
I mean, I think it is, we kind of joked about it, but I think it really does come down to like Estêvão is following him through the streets and camera shot of from above of him like push of the knight pushing his way through the crowd. And then yeah, at some point he thinks he hears something and he snaps his head around and just sees an empty crowd. And there's like that long lingering suspicious like stare, but after he concludes that there's nobody following him, he turns and continues walking, and then the camera like goes back and there around a corner is Estêvão just like standing there waiting. And when he starts moving again, Estêvão like puts his hood up and follows him deeper into the crowd.
I think the extra flourish you achieve here because of your crit is simply that when you follow him to his destination, you're already positioned in like a really good place to just like watch from afar without being like noticed. Like it's like a good like stakeout spot. Like maybe it's like on top of like a roof or something, or just in some way, but it's like you have like this great little like bird's eye view down or otherwise, and we can just see like Monsieur Novell following behind you, hopping around. He walks out of this district and heads back into the roughly the same areas we saw, or rather Torben and Estêvão saw the barges of French soldiers arriving in, of some garrison here in Royan that is already been like reinforced. Like this is a thing you notice on your way, and it's a thing you thankfully don't have to contend with because you're very slippery and quick. Is the increased presence of the French forces having arrived here in Royan, and he is returning to he's going there where all these arrivals come. The thing you notice is he is not the only one of his ilk present here. You catch sight of 2 or 3 others. He at one point, was like huddled with, like outside, maybe like near the boats or somewhere, but just of cloaked and hidden. But you can make out that they have the white tabards, black crosses kind of hidden beneath them, discussing amongst themselves, whispering. You don't see anything, but these German knights, there's more than just him in the city. And it seems like a few of their own did in fact arrive with the recent reinforcements from Paris. And you just kind of like you've been able to follow them back to like a garrison that they're currently out of. But beyond that, like, they duck into a building and then are out of sight.
Cool. I think after that, I can head back to the basilisk then.
Mm-hmm. Torben and Elyas, even though Alphonse levied this proposition to you of staying at House Leloup, it would be the same thing of like, I would assume you would want to go back to the basilisk then to meet with, or I don't know, if Elyas feels like being a particularly like a shithead, send a courier to deliver a message to the basilisk den, being like, hey, we're here, come to us. I don't know.
Oh my god, he would.
Would he actually? Okay.
Torben would volunteer to go.
Torben would be like,
I think like Elia was like fully gonna do that, and then Torben probably like speaks up. It's like, oh yeah, right. That also makes sense.
Yeah. So Elyas, when you get Estêvão, when you get back to the basilisk den, it's not as busy as it was last night, but it's still fairly early. But there are patrons milling about. It's somewhat more quiet in here. But when you enter, Milun does like look at you from across the room with like a sense of urgency. Like this man's hackles are raised. And he gives you like the look of like, get your ass over here. Like just like subtly over towards like the side of the bar. Like he's just being real nonchalant, just pouring drinks and carrying out his normal tasks. But he's telling you like, get the fuck over here.
Yeah. And we do.
He, like when you get close, conversationally close, he grabs you by the arm, not like necessarily like harshly, just grabs it just in this firm hold, like and speaks like low and close to you, and says, "You could have told me. You and your friends are Templars."
It's better that you don't know.
Is it? Because now I have people sniffing around after you. Let me be very clear. Frankly speaking, I don't mind at all who you are, what oaths you've made. All I care is about doing my job and keeping the peace. And this, he like looks back at the door. This could cause problems. Do you understand that? There was a man in here. He was asking a lot of questions.
I saw him, yes. And you're right, our presence here will cause problems. And so we're trying to get out of the city. I'm looking for a foreigner. I don't have any more information than that.
A foreigner? There's lots of those here.
Even more foreign than that. Who is the most foreign person that you've ever seen come through here?
In recent memory. You still on about finding that smuggler?
We are.
Most foreign.
If we find that smuggler, we can be out of your hair. You'll have no more strange one-eyed German knights beating down your door.
That man was a knight? I could have taken him for a demon.
He certainly fights like one.
I think at this moment, his eyes flick behind you and you can look to follow his eye line and see Torben entering. I think, Torben, is it fair to say you look like you've had a bad day and that you're kind of pissed off?
Yeah, very fair.
Yeah, Estêvão, you know the look. You can walk up, Torben, if you so desire.
We found other accommodation.
Is it safe?
No.
It's all the same. I prefer to stay here. Assuming, of course, our generous host will let us trade labor for.
I don't think that sounds like a good idea at all. Frankly, if that knight comes back and any of you, and he catches you up to speed, he tells you, he regales you the same amount of detail, and I'm sure Estêvão does as well. Yeah. And Milan says, if them or I don't know, another one comes poking back around and you right. are working here, he described, he points at Torben and he's like, he's like, you described all three of you, but whereas you and the other one, the fop, could be a little bit more, I guess, blended in, points at Torben, a hulking, bearded Dane was a bit more of a red flag. So no, I'm not looking to cause you folk any further trouble, but I can't let you stay here. And I think even this conversation's a bad fucking idea.
You're right. I've treaded too much upon your hospitality, and I'm certain God thanks you for your generosity up to this point.
Thank you.
Not be a bother to you any longer.
He just nods. And before you turn and walk away, he like quickly reaches out and grabs your arm again. And you can see that he like a thought's occurring to him. And he just pulls you back over to whisper. Said foreigner. Someone who is not usually considered like a foreigner.
Quite. Not like the sailor types.
Well, we have a mix occasionally, but nothing that's out of sorts. But, well, someone does come to mind. She is a regular here. And she's not from around these parts either. She's Welsh.
All right. I'd be worth taking a look at.
She's a regular here. And I don't think it's a good idea for you to be here.
Right, of course.
I don't know her name. She's come in pretty frequently. And her French sucks. It's quite terrible. But I've...
Be a problem.
Yeah, well, that's all I can offer you. You should clear out. Get out of here.
How are we supposed to find this person who's a regular here if we're not supposed to be?
We watch the door from outside, Estêvão, having no imagination.
I suppose you're right.
Milan gives you a stern look and just says, as long as you don't bring any of that outside trouble inside, I don't care where you watch from, who you watch for.
It's going to be a long night, maybe even a long few days, but if we don't get any contact we can't stay here. It's getting more dangerous.
How about this? If I see the lass come in, I will suggest to her to step outside. Or at least, I don't know, get her to leave. Say that if she is this contact that you're looking for, I don't know, maybe I'll tell her that there's work. As long as it's not bringing me trouble. But if you'll be waiting outside, I just don't want you to get spotted and cause problems for this place or me.
Do this. Send her to the chapel. And I name or describe the chapel where, I got started on the spycraft adventure.
Lad, she doesn't seem too keen on religion. At least not in the way she's talked when getting a few drinks in her.
Well, I suppose certainly send her out. Uh, Toss her out the door if you have to, but I'll take it from there.
Fine, fine. Just like I said, if more of those knights come back, you should probably leave the area.
We are doing everything in our power to do just that. I assure you. And for what it's worth, God be with you.
He just nods and goes back to his duties, and you clear out. And I think that is where we'll wrap the session up for today. Ben stepped away real quick, so let's just pause the recording until he comes back. All right, so that wraps up the session, and let's do stars and wishes, everyone. Whoever would like to start, please be my guest.
I'll go ahead and go because today was a really fun session. I mentioned it just a few seconds ago, but worth mentioning again for the recording that just like all of the reactions today from people were just absolutely priceless, including she's such a foreigner, and only to be revealed that she's Welsh, in a town where we've been dealing with Scandinavians and Danes and Germans, and it's like, oh, I was expecting, I don't know what exactly I was expecting, but it was not Welsh. But that was just fantastic and wonderful.
Yeah, when the country is at war with England, you don't see a lot of people from that island there. So yeah.
Star to I've been wanting the Templar spycraft, and boy did we get it. And I love Templar spycraft shave and a haircut. That was fantastic. I can't wait to reinvoke that anytime we invoke the spy network from now on. I loved Torben. Speaking of reactions, I wrote down the difference between Torben and Elyas's reaction to this whole getting blackmailed shenanigans was just absolutely priceless. Elyas being all gung-ho about it and Torben just being dragged along. I Star for just getting to use the spy network. I can't wait to use it more. I wish we had more pursuit points to bank to do more stuff. My associated wish with that. Also Star for the little detail about I could have taken him for a demon. Subtle. Milaiki. Just a fun little moment. My wishes again to continue digging more into the bone man and the supernaturality of all of this, especially if I'm going to keep Estêvão's lips sealed when it comes to Elia, because I love that this is going on in the background. Torben getting to bust some heads. I feel like we're building towards some head skull bustery. We had the spycraft down low session. Now it's time for big bombastic explosions and big cinematic Alexander Dumas-esque fights. Why not? So I think that's what I'm hoping for in the next couple sessions. But until I think about something else, that's what I got.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, stars. Yeah, Ben, I really loved sort of getting to see this side of Torben. I thought it was very interesting, like how he's like, on the side of the commoner and it's like this is beneath us to do this. Because that was very fun to then have Elia be like, no, he insulted a nobleman. So like that's like he's a prick, sure, but he's a nobleman. So you cannot do that. That's not how the world works. So that was like just fun to sort of play off on. And I think it just positions Torben as like in modern view more noble and like kind-hearted than Elia, which I think is very interesting. And I especially loved like him being really mad about it but still doing it, and Elia being like, ugh, then why are you doing it? And he going like, because you asked. And I do want to add that Elia totally blushed when that happened. Um, for Kevin, yeah, I loved Estêvão, like getting to be the smarty pants and getting to like unravel. Like he's been so like determined to find it, and it was so satisfying to like see it happen and like see how you were following a thread. And I really loved like the sign and call that you came up with. That was really, really fun. Very like evocative and thematic. Um, I was gonna say something else and then I forgot mid-sentence. I don't remember. Maybe it'll come back to me. But yeah, I really like that. I thought that was a very fun to see. Alex, lots of great moments. I love how insufferable Alphonse is. It's just so bad, but he just knows exactly how to manipulate Elia, and it's so funny to play off as Elia, both being like, I know what you're doing, but also, by God, it's working. Like, I know you're playing me, but I'm just gonna be played like a fiddle because you given me a bath, you given me wine, I'm down for it. Um, but other than that, I lots of like small moments. I absolutely love the dog. Like I don't know why, like such a
Cabo.
small moment, but so fantastic where Nivel's like, and the dog's like, oh shit, no, absolutely not. I ain't looking for trouble. Very good. I mean the Welsh thing was very, very funny. Um, I also loved like the I'm doing the bartending, but I'm doing like a like sort of the understated way that the bartender, like that Milan has been talking to us. I thought that was very cool. Um, yeah, just like a lot of cool moments. Wishes. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like we're setting up a lot of drama and conflicts here with Torben and Elia, and now Elia and Estevao, should that come to light, which is like a long-term wish, probably not next session. For next session, I would love for Elia to maybe have like some more conversations with Alphonse where he can get like scheming and courting too. Because like now we've seen him like very much on the back foot, like very much blackmail, but I think it would be interesting to see Elia back in like his courtly manner where maybe he starts manipulating Alphonse back a little bit. I don't know what he could offer other than being a very pretty boy, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that is interesting to me, and I would just yeah love to get more moments of these people, the Templars bonding and making the conflicts. And also what the fuck the Bomaz are up to. Because Elia in character is not interested. I out of character am super interested. Like Elia has some issues. Me as a player, I'm like, yes, let's get into it. Let's ruin his life.
Yeah, stars, first of all, to that question. I was not expecting it. I was expecting, I thought, okay, well, maybe they'll ask a question about either finding for information for the contact, or maybe they'll ask something about like, maybe they'll be interested in like some other like aspect of things that have shaken out. Did not think about the Bowman's angle. And then when it came up, I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I echo exactly what Jazzy said. I really love how, Kevin, you were leaning into effectively setting up future dominoes to fall, future drama and problems to arise. Because now Estevao is going to know some stuff, and we'll see how that shakes out. Loved Torben and Elyas's side quest, and that scene between them of Torben being like, "This is beneath us," and Elyas being very flippant about it. But specifically, the moment of it being like, it's like, "Do you ask this of me?" Like, even though he hates this and Torben doesn't want to do this, and he thinks it is absolutely not a good cause. It's like, okay, my friend is asking me to do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm loving the friction that's happening between these two characters. It's going to reach a really really big boiling point at some point, and I'm looking forward to that. A note on the duel stuff itself. So this was, I guess, this could be considered a first like little side quest. Like overall, I'm actually pretty happy with like the pacing that we've settled into of how these scenes were unfolding. But in my notes, my prep for this session, I actually ended up revising the details like kind of at the last minute, because I had an idea that it could play out the way it did. Like I was like, oh, actually, this idea makes it. Originally, Gautier was not a merchant; he was a fellow noble, given insult too. And I was like, wait a second. If Alphonse is a noble and the dual guy is not a noble, I'm willing to fucking bet Elyas will have one opinion, and Torben, if present, will have a completely different one. And yep, it played out exactly the way I thought it would. That was awesome. And it sucks to be Gautier. The guy did nothing wrong. Guy did nothing wrong and got his shit kicked in. But not really though, because actually that was a beautiful narration on Torben's part of like very, very reserved and not excessive. Love the idea of Elyas being just so buddy with Alphonse, and like, man, oh boy. I have a feeling his dreams aren't going to be better for a few nights, probably, but we'll see. And yeah, I absolutely loved the details you threw into the mix there, Kevin, while hunting down the leads. The shaven haircut thing was really good. That was awesome. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see what happens next, because there is friction in the party. You might get out by ship. The place is starting to crawl with more soldiers. What's going to happen? I don't know. We're going to find out. So my wishes are, I definitely I'm looking forward to seeing y'all get back out there and like the journey to continue. I have some like ideas for like more like seated adventures, especially ones that could possibly relate to Beaumont's related stuff. So however those get introduced, if they are not discovered in one way, I will probably drip them somewhere else into the campaign. But I'm looking forward to like parts of the game that, probably won't be like for the next session or two, but like of okay, you are now actually like on the journey. Like there is more distance being covered. You're out of the immediate bubble of like France is on top of you and you are being hunted. You're never not going to be hunted, but I'm looking forward to being out there in kind of like the broader world, especially for someone like Elyas who needs a bit of perspective, I think. But yeah, no, that was a really fun session, and thank you all for playing.
Thank you. So my stars immediately I had to write down the dream logic of Elyas and his father being in the cup. Kevin, that was just such a perfect dreamy image, and I really enjoyed, Jazzy, how you went with that, with the pooling of water and the floor. I really love this increasing tension with Elyas and his noble bullshit coming out, and I look forward to that reaching a breaking point that will absolutely end well for everybody. And Kevin, the scene of Estêvão stalking Sir Eye Patch, and you just painted that scene really well. The shaven haircut, as mentioned, was great, and I just love Estêvão's little espionage adventure here. Alex, the side quest was great, and I'm looking forward to that continuing to drive a wedge between our heroes, and a wish. I think Torben's going to want to meet up with Gautier, maybe find out a little more about what's going on here and see if he can use that for leverage to get something on Alphonse. And now that he knows Sir Eye Patch is in town, he's very much thinking of doing the stupid thing He has a wrong to right.
For the record, I did name Sir Eye Patch, so he has a name and it's ready to be discovered at some point, I'm sure.
He has a name and it's Sir Eye Patch.
No. I think his name is pretty cool. Maybe not as cool as Sir Eye Patch or the
What's
Eye
eye
Patch
patch
Knight.
in German?
I don't know. I actually didn't look that up. I should have.
Augen something.
Augen something.
It would have been wonderful for his mother to have the prescience
Yeah,
to
right?
name him that at
She
birth.
knew.
It's nominative determinism. It had to happen.
Eye Patch in German. Hold on, looking it up.
Augenklappe? Augenklapp? I can't pronounce that.
Man, no wonder he turned out evil. That kid was bullied. Augenklapp.
Oh,
that's-
Augie.
Oh, Augie. No, that's not his name.
Y'all are like, haha, that's funny. And I'm just like, yeah, that is a word that makes absolute and total sense.
Yeah, Augenklapp. You can just be like, yeah, Sir Augenklapp.
Augen.
Yeah, no, definitely not his name. Any other stars or wishes though?
It would be Herr Augenklapp, wouldn't it?
Hair. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
my apologies. Hair Augenklapp, of course, naturally. Yes.
Yeah, I put it in the chat, but I'll say it in voice too. Yeah, star for the opening dream, the cup, and then also Ben, what you added with him like burning inside. Like as it was happening, I really liked how he sort of on the spot made like a very like water and fire team. And I thought like that was a really like symbolic and very interesting where like, you have the Holy Grail, you have the cup and the water and it's cleansing and it's this and it's that. And then Elia and like the fire and the ashes and it burning up and hell and like, yes, great.
Elias's dream had a meaning, a specific thing like to be taken away from it. What do you think that was? I'm curious to see if you got it yet or no.
Me, Jazzy?
Yes, you, Jazzy.
Don't fucking drink from the cup. I mean, I'm playing with because it's Alphonse who drank. Like it's really giving me and there was like before we drank it, there was like there's something that reminds you that you're not worthy or that like it makes you doubt yourself. So it feels to me like that was some kind of like you gotta be worthy because if you're not like Alphonse and you drink, you burn in hell or like there's like some bad shit that's happened. That was my take from it.
Interesting.
And I'm very happy that it happened that way because I was as a player I was like I don't know if it's more interesting for Elia to like drink immediately or not. But I do really like this cinematic narrative of he doesn't do it the first time and then maybe later he can, like like the threat is not resolved because now it happened to Alphonse and that can have so many meanings, right? Elia is clearly better, so
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see if the meaning of your dream is indeed what you suspect it to be. But if there are no more stars and wishes, I will bring our recording to an end.